Move with the rhythm, shake it up, stop when the clock hits 13. You've been learning and you're earning all of those hours. You can freak out. 1 in a million, gonna shine bright and you never go dim. Sing it 1, 2, 3, 4. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. We got the right stuff. We put the hammer right down. Wanna be like us? You better stick around. If you want it, you gotta prove it. Like we do it, like we do it. Do it like we do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it, like we do it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Downtown Now. Today, we are talking about the Downtown Recovery Response Fund. A reminder to enter your questions in the chat and comment features, and we will answer them later during the presentation. I'll now turn it over to our host today, Tom Storinsky, Associate Director of Historic Warehouse District Development Corporation and Historic Gateway Neighborhood Corporation.
Thank you, Lauren. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. You'll notice that our previous 33 episodes, Michael Deemer is not with us. We're trying to shake it up here a little bit and spread out the host related to more of the expertise that is working on the projects that we're working on. And the Recovery Response Fund was something that I was intimately involved with and really proud to work on that and glad to be here to talk about it. So May 30th is a day that what many of us are going to really remember. It's a day that a peaceful protest in downtown Cleveland centered on the killing of George Floyd turned into civil unrest. It was a day that the realities around police violence and systemic racism was no longer just something we talked about, but it was something we really needed to take deliberate action against. It was also a day that triggered some serious economic development issues. Governor DeWine had recently lifted the stay-at-home order due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Businesses were reopening and figuring out how to shift their business models. And as a major economic driver for the city, downtown businesses generate vitality in the neighborhoods within downtown, as well as provide essential jobs for Clevelanders. In fact, every hotel room is equal to one job, and every 5 seats in a restaurant is also equal to one job. So you can see how that really impacts the city's economy. So as we began to work with businesses to understand their needs right after the civil unrest, we spent a lot of time on the phone and walking around and talking to businesses and really understanding what they needed in terms of boarding up windows and figuring out how to reopen. We realized through those conversations that we were all facing probably about $6 million of damage and loss of income as a result of the curfew that occurred the week after. Despite that economic blow, I was always really amazingly impressed with the businesses and the resilience that they continued to show. They were showing it already through the pandemic, but being hit with this and the damage that they had to deal with and sift through, their attitude was really, this is really just stuff. And it was really impressive to work with these businesses. And they knew that there was really bigger issues in this country than just the damage that they're having to deal with. And it was always really impressive. So after those conversations, two goals really became really clear. We needed to work with the community to have open and honest conversations about racial equity. And then 2, to provide the necessary resources to get these businesses back open and getting back running and get the downtown and the city's economy going. And this really was a call to action to the city of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, the Cleveland Foundation, Greater Cleveland Partnership, Downtown Cleveland Alliance, and the organizations that I work with in the Gateway District and the Warehouse District. we decided to collaborate and develop a pool of funds to support the reopening of the businesses that were affected by the civil unrest. And this effort became the Downtown Recovery Fund. The goal of the collaboration was to create a quick and simple process to provide resources as fast as possible, leveraging the assets that the partners had, and get those assets and invest them back into the neighborhoods, into the businesses, to get them open. So ultimately, the Downtown Recovery Fund provided approximately $1.3 million in grants to 88 businesses. These businesses represent over 1,500 jobs. 26 of those businesses are minority owned, 18 are women owned. Further, 74 of those businesses reported that at least 25% or greater of their employees were minorities. 76 of those grants were to business owners, and another 12 of those grants were to property owners. So on this episode of Downtown Now, we're going to talk about the civil unrest and what it means to the downtown business community, and as the downtown business community continues to grow. We're going to talk to three individuals today. Ikea Dixon, or I call her Coco, and that's how I'll talk to her, of Coco's Chalky Paint. You'll learn about her energy and her creativity and her innovation as a business person, and we'll talk to her about how the civil unrest impact her and what she's done since that day. Dick Pace is the CEO of Cumberland Development and the landlord and steward of the Fifth Street Arcades, where he has cultivated over the last few years around 40 retail businesses in the Fifth Street Arcades. That's really restarting the retail conversation in downtown, and we'll learn about his impact as a landlord, as well as conversations he's had with his tenants. And then Nelson Beckford, a good friend of mine, who's the program director at Neighborhood Revitalization. He's the program director of Neighborhood Revitalization Engagement at the Cleveland Foundation, one of the partners of this. Nelson and I always have really great conversations about big issues like this, and so I'm really looking forward to talking to him as well. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for making time for us. Really excited to be here with you. So why don't we jump in? Coco, from a business owner's perspective, why don't you tell us about May 30th? And tell us about that day and what your reactions were as it was happening, and tell us about how your business was challenged.
Okay, so May 30th, I was actually at home watching my security cameras, and on my cameras, I could see windows being all broke out. And so when you're sitting at home and you're like actually watching this on video, what do? I just said a prayer and I watched, and it was really devastating. But I knew that what was going on down there. I just didn't think that it would reach as far as the arcade and the results that was happening. And I knew at that time, whatever the results were, that I was going to go with it and make something out of it. So, okay, I don't know if you had a question for me or if I should just keep going, because I can keep going. All right, so so after that, there were shops that were near me that were kind of like inside space, and they closed. And so in the midst of the civil unrest, I decided that I was going to expand my location, because I had two choices. You either look at the spaces that are boarded up, or you can just do something to change those. So I decided to open up a couple of the stores that had closed. Now, my landlord is in this meeting also. I was so surprised to see him, because he's Dick Pace, and he was just amazing to work with. I mean, whatever my requests were, Dick was there. Whatever I suggested, he let me just do free reign. Like, I can't stress the importance of having such an amazing landlord in a time like this, because I was a little nervous about expanding, but I thought that, if I was going to do it, that maybe this should be the time to do it. So once I had opened up the stores, I looked around Cleveland. I thought, well, there are like no plant shops downtown Cleveland. So I opened up, the first thing I opened up was a plant shop. So after I got the plant shop opened up, I went back to my roots of thinking the reason why I came downtown Cleveland was because I have this amazing powder. And so with that time of when the slowdown of the crowds, I decided to kind of like really focus on my powder. In between doing the plant shop, I was able to open the plant shop, hire a plant shop manager because I can't really do plants, but reinvent and get back to what I should have been doing, which was my powder. So I'm like so happy and thrilled to say that May 3rd was exactly a year from when that happened. My product, which is my powder, will be in every Hobby Lobby across the United States. And this also couldn't really have been possible if it wasn't for you, Tom, who really connected me with some amazing people in the city of Cleveland. Everything happened so fast that I could not have done this on my own. Now, that were on the west side. On the west side of Cleveland, Westlake. I had no idea that by owning a shop inside the city of Cleveland, what kind of support you had. Like, you know,
You're still muted, Coco. Coco, I think you muted yourself.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Coco, I think you muted yourself.
All right, I think we lost audio. Tom, I'll kick it over to you.
Okay. So Coco, we'll come back to you. Dick, why don't you tell us, you were there that day on May 30th, about a year ago. Kind of tell us, lead us through what went through your mind on that day and some of the conversations you had with your tenants.
Well, Tom, you're right. That's a day I'll never forget because it happens to be my wedding anniversary, and I was celebrating my 33rd wedding anniversary with my wife and some friends, and then I heard that all the disruption going on down here at the Fifth Street arcades, and I guess from my perspective, it felt more like a riot than unrest. When I came down, there were people that had broken into Johnnyville and taken the bats out of baseball bats out of Johnnyville, about 80 baseball bats, and started smashing windows everywhere they could find them. So it was mayhem when I came down. I was ultimately assaulted, knocked out cold on the sidewalk on Euclid in front of Fifth Street. But the next day, what was heartening was the next day on Sunday was I came back down to try to clean up and secure, and there were more people here sweeping up, cleaning up, helping than there were people breaking glass the night before. It was, just really shows what Cleveland's all about. And not only was DCA there and Tom and Joe Marinucci, but people like Justin Bibb, John Zitzner from Breakthrough Charter Schools, neighbors that I hadn't seen in a long time. Everybody came down to help. Everybody was pitching in. And it was that same spirit with the funding and the grants through DCA and Cleveland Foundation and the city. Everybody cooperated and worked together to try to help. And we've been blessed with 45 great tenants like Coco. Nobody's like Coco, and she does a fantastic job. But all of our tenants are startups. We have no national chains intentionally, and everyone's an entrepreneur. And having startups, people are really vested in what they're doing here, and that's the great part about coming to work every day is seeing how everybody is pulling together to try to get to the right solution. So I'd be happy to go into more detail as the show and discussion goes on. I can keep on going forever. So.
Well, tell us a little bit of the conversations you had with your tenants and what you heard them going through.
We had over $250,000 worth of damage to the physical damage in the Fifth Street arcades. We had tenants that really were looted, ransacked, had all their material, merchandise taken out, property destroyed that wasn't taken. So they were devastated. We did because that was partway into the COVID. We had already lost one of our 45 tenants to the COVID disruption, and that the day after we got a call from another tenant who was really a wonderful person, Fra Angelica, and that tenant had been a great mentor to some of our younger tenants. And she makes beautiful hand knitted garments. And she said, I just can't do it anymore. She said, I had to give up. So we lost one part. She was already struggling with the COVID crisis, and this just was a straw that knocked her over. Then after that, we lost another 6 tenants after that. So we lost 8 altogether from COVID, and one from COVID and the riot. So that was devastating. We had to give free rent to our tenants because they had no business. The insurance company covered June, which they needed to because nobody was open. We had to secure the building. But we gave another 3 months free rent to our tenants because they couldn't survive otherwise. And we want all these tenants to survive and thrive. So we've done that. That's been a cost of $160,000 to us with giving away the free rent. And we probably have another $50,000 of accounts receivable from tenants who are just unable to pay because the traffic's been so low. But it's coming back. We're starting to see the traffic come back with the weather turning, with the Indians starting to increase their crowd size. Hopefully we'll see businesses come back and thrive. And we were lucky to get one of your grants, Tom, and you were, I guess, not lucky. We were not lucky. We were lucky that we know you because you made sure that it happened. Some of the work that provided was helping us with our insurance deductible. Our insurance coverage was great, but we had a large deductible, and that helped cover that. It helped us with some of the glass breakage that wasn't covered, helped us with painting that wasn't covered, helped us with some of the major signage that wasn't covered. So it was a godsend to have that support, and we appreciate everything you did. Our tenants have hung in there. As entrepreneurs, they figure out what to do when things are difficult. And a couple of them told me that what else can we do? This is our livelihood. We can't give up. And they haven't, and they're thriving now. They're coming back. So we're delighted to see that, and things have been good.
Yeah, I'll say it 100 times. Just one of the best outcomes of the pandemic is that I think that we know our businesses better because we, since April, we were almost having weekly, sometimes every other week, Zoom meetings with them to make sure that they had the resources they need. And I think as a result, I know everybody better, and I feel like we can be better at what we do. So, Nelson, there was over the pandemic, there was a lot of need that our neighborhoods there was a lot of need in the neighborhoods, and a lot of it was because of the history of structural racism, and the pandemic really brought those issues to the forefront and put a spotlight on them. Then the Rapid Recovery Fund there was a collaboration of many foundations that did a really great job of getting those resources to the people with the greatest need, mostly in the neighborhoods. So can you tell us a little bit about when the conversation started about this fund, what was the foundation's thought process in considering investing in the businesses in downtown?
Great. And Tom, you started with the hard question. Thank you for that. And I also want to just pause and acknowledge just the strength, flexibility, and resilience of Dick and Coco. I could sit there and listen to you guys all day. It's those individual stories that I think talk and show the strength in our entrepreneur system and here in Cleveland and in the Cleveland people. But Tom, for us at the foundation, it's not a downtown versus Cleveland neighborhoods dynamic. We feel that one needs and support each other. And if you just zoom out a little bit, downtown Cleveland is an economic driver for the state, in fact, the region. And if our downtown is not strong, we know our neighborhoods would be affected. And I think you and I talked soon after the protests, and I remember I was reflecting with you that I was also doing some research on something else, and I was looking at some photos after the day after the Huff riots, and I was like, Tom, wow, I had this moment because I'm looking at these black and white photos of a proud Black neighborhood, and people that looked like me were cleaning up after the Huff riots, and downtown I saw people that looked like me were cleaning up, and for me, I was thinking about like the businesses, the business owners, the people that may not have a job, if these businesses don't recover. So when you all came to the foundation looking for support, we leaned into it. One, it was a public-private partnership. It was a heavy lift, but we weren't alone. We have a lot of trust and faith in your organization's time and your leadership and your proximity to the issues. Just hearing, these folks talk about the resource and the value that you bring to their daily lives, it wasn't a tough sell, because we know the images after the protests, it was terrifying. It was symbolic. We worked downtown. Our offices were downtown. I enjoy going to the Fifth Street Arcade. It was our city. It's our city, and to see it decimated like that. So, Tom, when DCA came with this request, it was a no-brainer. We needed downtown Cleveland to quickly recover, and in our mind, we had a triage. I think people forget that downtown Cleveland is a neighborhood. People live downtown, not just workers. So we thought, we have many staff members that live downtown. We thought, what is it like? What is the lived experience for a resident downtown? Will they be able to get milk? Will they be able to get their laundry done? Their basic needs. And then we thought about the workers. And please, Tom, remind us of the stats of the folks that work down at one time, over 100,000 people I heard work downtown. So we said, we want to make sure people's quality of life in downtown quickly recovered. So I could go on and on, Tom, but it's just seeing how this was a group community lift was really, really, really inspiring. And I'll kind of leave with this kind of geek thought notion. The definition of a community, I think we sometimes conflate it with a physical space. A community is a group of people with shared values and shared ideals. And I think this in COVID kind of reminds that we need to have like a shared agenda. We need to have like shared goals. And fortunately, it takes stuff like this to remind us. So we're honored to be a part of it. On behalf of the board and staff of the Cleveland Foundation, just salute to everyone that played a part in helping downtown recover.
Thanks, Nelson. So just to dig a little deeper, because I think one of the things I think both you and I are proud about is the collaboration and how we were able to act fast. Can you give the listeners a little bit of insight on that collaboration and kind of how it worked, and how you think the work that we collectively did could be duplicated in other scenarios, and maybe there's a little bit of innovation that we could leverage?
Thank you for that question, Tom. And actually, you did all the work, Tom. Was able to work.
Well, let's be clear. There's a whole team of people. It wasn't just me.
Tom, you and team, you corralled us. So each funder had a representative on a committee, and without getting too much into the sausage making, different funders have different restrictions. So not only did we have to I believe at one time there were weekly calls to go through each application, and it was a combination of Tom's on the ground insight to whatever funding restrictions that a foundation or a government entity may have, and it was I think the big takeaway for me is that city, county, and other partners, folks put their egos aside and were focused on getting folks like Coco back in business. So it was more, and It was a rapid recovery fund, and we split it up into multiple grant rounds because we felt as though there's a lot to learn, and just one big splash, we may not capture it all. So I kudos to Tom and team. We have, forget how many separate grant rounds, but each one was a learning, and we were allowed to kind of dig deeper into the complexity of issues that property owners had to deal with. It was a very much an eye opener for me. And again, this could not have been done without the leadership from Tom and team and our city and county partners. And I think the big takeaway, hopefully we're never in a situation like this. I think urgency was the big thing. Speed, we didn't really have time to really over deliberate. We were learning while we were doing. And again, I think we were triaging it. We wanted to make sure downtown Cleveland recovered quickly. And, it was a focus on the residents, the workers, and the necessity workers. What conditions, what amenities do they need to, again, back to some sense of normalcy?
Tom, this is Dick. If I could jump in there and echo and reinforce what Nelson said, a couple things. First of all, downtown is a neighborhood. I've been working in downtown for a long time, since the 70s, and I remember when Tommy Blonsky and I were trying to promote downtown living, and there were only 2,000 people living downtown. Now there are 10 times that many people. And it really is a neighborhood that can support a grocery store and all the amenities that make a good neighborhood. So it is one of the strongest neighborhoods in the city of Cleveland, and that's what's holding us together. Secondly, again, to reinforce the work you do, the reason you and Tommy Blonsky, both of you, are successful is because you do walk around, you do talk to the people in the storefronts, you do talk to the shop owners. It's not something that just can be done from a distance, and it can't be done out of your own office. It has to be done on the street, and that's the strength of you and your organization being on the street. That's the strength of having the ambassadors. We celebrated the ambassadors and how important they are, and all of them helping to sweep up, clean up, do whatever they could on May 31st. It was huge. The third point that I wanted to reinforce is not every funder can, to reinforce the point that not every funder can fit what they have, their program, into what we need. And COVID, as an example, and some of the federal funds, some of it flowing through the city, came with requirements for job creation, which is a standard part of any economic development incentive package. But when we're talking about COVID, we're trying to retain those jobs, keep the jobs, keep the doors open. You can't make a commitment to add jobs as a requirement as part of the loan. The program, the rapid response, was able to avoid a lot of those pitfalls by the coordination of Cleveland Foundation, DCA, the city, all working together and figuring out what's going to work and what's needed. So those are important points. I just wanted to reinforce what Nelson had been saying.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think that's great. So let's fast forward a little bit to today. So I'm down here almost every day now. And every day I see a few more people on the train coming down, a few more people on the streets, on the heel of the NFL draft, and with the mask order from the governor ending on June 2nd, Progressive Field just is moving to full capacity on that same day. More and more anecdotally, we're hearing office workers in the major buildings are beginning to return, and more in June and July. I'm just thinking about what the impact of the civil unrest had on us. So a question I have, if Coco has her audio back, do you still think about May 30th? And what do you think that impact of that day is having on our collective thinking in terms of diversity and inclusion? I can't hear you. I wish we could hear you, because I really want to hear what you say, what you're saying.
Oh, damn, Coco, no. Oh, no.
Well, let's move to Nelson.
Yeah.
Coco gets her voice back. We'll jump to her. But Nelson, that same question. Do you think about May 30th, and what do you think what kind of impact that's having on our collective thinking about diversity and inclusion?
Tom, we and equity, we think about it every day, Tom, and we're part of the same field where, there's been intensive training, discussions, thinking about the impact, the long-lasting impact of racism, of social injustice, of redlining. And you also know, as a historian, that, the previous civil unrest in America in the 60s, what came out of that was almost like the community development field. So to me, it was almost like a bookmark. We know that issues that left untouched will reemerge. And so I think that will always remain in the collective conscience. And again, I'm going to kind of put some shine back onto DCA. From the very beginning, the Rapid Recovery put almost an equity statement out, a value statement about what it believes. And I know there was also a public art component in lockstep to say, we are a welcoming, inclusive city. We know and believe Black Lives Matter. We know that equity is it's actually it's a social justice, economic development issue. So it's fresh in our memory every day. And in terms of the foundation, we're thinking deeply a lot about how do we, really build power and wealth in some of these communities? How do we get another 25, 50 entrepreneurs like Coco to dot and take up storefronts in downtown and Cleveland neighborhoods? So really, but how do we go back to kind of building power and building wealth? So yeah, it's something we think about every day.
Yeah. Coco, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes. Beautiful. Good to hear your voice. So the question, I'll just repeat the questions. Do you still think about May 30th last year? And what do you think that day is, how that's impacted all our collective thinking about racism and diversity and inclusion?
So I want to say that my played 10 years for the Cleveland Browns. So when they were kneeling at the games, it was always a very touchy subject. A lot of people did not understand. They thought that it was radical. They thought that they were being disrespectful. They thought that they didn't love the country. None of those really were true. Our son is a captain in the military police. He was driving with our other son just to Columbus. And he told my other son, who was 20 at the time, you can't wear that hat. Like, we might get pulled over. My son's like, wait, are you kidding? It's just a hat. And surely enough, they got pulled over. And when they got pulled over, my son in the military police, that is ID. I'm a captain in the military police. So I'm saying this to say that I've seen it from both sides. It was so sad to think that it was so being misunderstood. And it was a topic that I really didn't even want to talk about very much because it was so misunderstood. Here, my son's a captain in the military police. Of course, we love the police. Of course, we love and respect them. But here is my husband who played in the NFL, and they were kneeling because we just needed to be heard. Because I have to teach my sons, how to act when you're out there. I have to teach them, right from wrong what's in my mind. So when all of that happened and people were sending me emails like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, it got destroyed. I didn't care about that. That means nothing to me. Items can be replaced, but lives cannot be replaced. So everything that was broken, it didn't matter to me. That was not important at all. What I was actually more grateful for was that I saw this opening and I saw this change and I saw this, just like Dick said, people were coming to help. So many people were like, oh, can we come help you clean up? And they did. And it was really, really awesome. Now, let me fast forward a couple of months before that happened. that I had just finished renovating a space down below, and so we were going to do the opening of it. Right at that time, a car drove the brick wall and right into the space that I had just finished painting and, just getting it really nice. So so that happened right before the civil unrest. And again, it didn't, yeah, everything was destroyed, but not this material person that freaks out about things about material. I'm more into, hey, what are we going to learn from this? I'm not sure how to learn from the car coming through, but I know that what I did learn was that when I got with you, Tom, and you helped me with this, that meant so much more to me than anything. I'm a creative. I'm super creative. I can create. I can't do paperwork. And I think I called you crying a couple times. Oh, I don't know how to do this. And you were so awesome because I had already applied for 3 loans and I got declined for all of them. So when you came along, I was like, well, I'm just going to try it again. And you helped me through it. But after that May 30th thing, I just saw an opening and change. I saw a camaraderie. And I see the city coming back together because, like I said, my husband played in the NFL for 10 years for the Browns. We watched a lot of our friends move after they got done playing. They moved from the city of Cleveland. They went back to their hometown. I mean, it's okay. I'm not faulting them. We wanted to give Cleveland back a portion of what Cleveland gave us. So when I came downtown, again, that was huge for me because I'd always been in the suburbs. So when I came downtown, I was not expecting the unity. I was not expecting to be just, welcome with open arms. And every day I see more and more of this, which is just priceless to me, which is invaluable and priceless to me that I think that people are really seeing a new change come through.
So Dick, Nelson brings up an interesting point. Like when he was thinking about the civil unrest that happened in May, but he was looking at the Huff riots way back when. How do you think that the people will look back at May 30th, 2020 in 5 to 10 years?
Well, again, I'm the old timer. I remember the Huff riots, and I remember driving down what was at that time Liberty Boulevard with my parents driving down because I was too young to drive. But seeing the Jeeps and half tracks and all the military equipment there as almost as DMZ. Luckily, we're way beyond that. Much more progressed from that. We're not where we need to be. When we look at what happened on May 30th, first is put it in context. I have a huge respect for Mayor Jackson and for Calvin Williams. Neither one perfect individuals, none of us are, but if you look at difficult times like when Tamir Rice was killed, they were able to go out because they went out on the street themselves and kept the communication going. And without that, if they had stayed in City Hall and sent out press releases, we would have had many problems. Many of those problems were avoided through good communication. That's what's so surprising about May 30th is I remember attendants coming to me and saying, "Is this going to be a problem on May 27th?" And I said, "No. Look at how well the police chief did with the RNC, how well we've done with other controversies, and I didn't have any expectation that there'd be a problem, but there was. It was a mistake by the city and by the police as to how they handled it, and an underestimation of the passion and the concern that's out on the street, and they missed it, and I don't think they'll miss it again. But it's not about the policing; it's really about what each of us does. And just take Coco, for example. It's not just that she has a great store and some great ideas and brings jobs to Cleveland, creates jobs, but it's also what she does in addition to that or with that. Helping teachers get supplies for school. That's not on her business letterhead, but it's part of who she is and what she does. I'm involved with the breakthrough charter schools, and John Zitzner would be the first to say that education's urgent, and that's a civil right. I mean, that is probably right now one of the most disturbing examples of civil rights abuse is how bad urban schools are in comparison to the suburban schools. That just isn't right. It isn't fair. It isn't just. We have to solve that. And that may be one of the core issues. That's what we do every day. So it's not just a reaction to broken glass. It's a reaction to how do we solve the problem of equal opportunity? How do we live up to the challenge that Martin Luther King gave us and get rid of racism and get rid of the divides between us? And I think in Cleveland, much more than other cities, Cleveland has, when you look at numbers, has a lot of failings with poverty, with segregation, with all sorts of issues. But I think the heart of Clevelanders is far more open than I see in other cities. And I do a lot of travel, and I've worked in a lot of cities, and Clevelanders are much more welcoming. So we can solve these problems. We can solve education. We can solve some of these other issues by job creation and try to lift up the least among us. And thank God that we have a wonderful city, and we can continue to do more. So there's more to talk on that, but those are some of my initial reactions. I think that I guess your real question was, where are we now and where are we going? I think that we'll see on the actual anniversary of May 30th. Hopefully we will not have an outbreak like that, but hopefully we won't try to bury it either, that we actually try to address the issues and have a conversation about addressing those issues. And it can't be a one-sided conversation or a lecture. It's got to be a discussion. So, and I think we're able to do that, and we have good leaders that can stage those conversations.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said at the beginning, that it's a lot of this is about not just talking about it, but deliberate action that we take on it. Why don't we check in with Lauren and see if there's any questions from the audience?
Sure thing. Let me pull them up. We did get a comment here. Happy to have donated. Some of the stats are slightly bothersome, but happy it's all positive. I just want to know it went towards Cleveland small business owners and that our donations contributed to stores opening and regional growth and economic prosperity. In addition to hiring local and potentially even increasing the pay of local workers, Cleveland against the world, let's keep going. Tom, I don't know if you wanted to maybe, share those stats again with that comment, or.
Yeah, I can do that. And then Nelson, if you want to maybe chime in a little bit about the priorities and the criteria that we got that we put on the money, then we do that. So yeah, just really quickly again, it was 88 businesses received collectively about $1.3 million. That represents 1,500 jobs. 26 of the businesses minorities, 18 were women owned. None of them were national chains. They were all locally owned businesses. 74 of the businesses reported at least 25% or greater employees that were minority or are minorities. 76 of the grants were businesses and 12 were property owners. But Nelson, we had a lot of conversations about criteria and making sure that the money got invested in a very specific way to assist the businesses. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, Tom, I'm happy to. So again, I remember it just being a lot of sharing, a lot of compromise, and it was a mixture between, again, the individual funding sources criteria, the sometimes often very complex stories that individual businesses were dealing with, and then for me, Tom and teams and DCA's insight to the on the ground conditions, but kind of put it into perspective. I do remember that we thought, of course, the main commercial corridor spine, how it would look, the aesthetics of it, because if Euclid Avenue is filled with broken windows, it doesn't send a really good signal of hope and rebirth. And then I think the other part that I thought was really interesting, Tom, was that there was of course, an application process, but I don't believe it was burdensome. We really emphasized, very straightforward application, really clear, quick decision making, and of course the other part was to get the money to the businesses really quickly, because under normal conditions, these separate funding sources, what they would probably have to do is send individual checks to the businesses. Because of DCA, it was one central body, and they were able to quickly process and administer the actual grant and payment side of it. So other points that I think that were really interesting was that, I probably learned more than I needed to know about the complexity of retail, about how, Heinen's, I won't go into it, but it was just a testament to DCA and Historic Gateway being so close to the ground, being so close to the needs and the nuances of the business community of downtown Cleveland. And they also are the ones, again, started by the local philanthropic community to help work with private and public partners to set a vision for downtown. So, this crisis was a testament to them being well-resourced and having the capacity to react. I have an aunt that used to say, you don't buy a fire engine in the middle of a fire, you just hope you have it there. And we're thankful and lucky that DCA and Historic Gateway were ready and poised to respond, because I don't believe I'm saying I'm talking out of school, but I think the city of Cleveland alone would probably have a hard time adapting to the speed and the dynamic nature of the issues, the individual specific issues. But as a team, along with the city and the county and philanthropy, we were able to do more. I rambled,
Yeah.
Tom. Hopefully I got to your question.
Well, to carry your fire
if
engine.
you don't mind, let me jump in and reinforce one other aspect of that, talking about Cleveland. Cleveland, again, just to say how good a situation we have compared to others, and we don't look at it that way often. We need to quit looking at others with envy and look at others and with reality. St. Louis had similar issues that we had. They had big disruption back in May 30th. I was there a month ago, and they still have concrete barriers blocking off streets in downtown. It still feels like a war zone. And part of that is maybe being cautious. Part of it is mindset. And I think our mindset is a very different mindset than many other cities. I love St. Louis. I don't want to call them out in a negative way, but I'm just saying in comparison, we've got a great community, and the community is the important word. And we really pull together, and that needs to continue to be reinforced. So I just wanted to take that shot one more time.
Yeah, and just to reinforce Nelson's analogy about the fire engine, we were incredibly lucky that the Cleveland Foundation and the city and the county and Greater Cleveland Partnership were there to invest in building that fire engine really quickly. And then our collective priority was really on getting the business open and getting the boards off of the windows and getting the city to look back to normal. I mean, these businesses were already sick and tired of filling out forms for PPP and PPE and this and that and all these other acronyms. And so we really needed to make sure that the application process was easy and we didn't write checks. We electronically transferred everything. So it was as soon as they had all their required documents in, literally a day later, they had the money in their bank account.
Just one other quick point, Tom. I do remember there were times that you were, it's just the speed of getting getting the checks. It was an emphasis on getting checks to entrepreneurs quickly. And, I believe there's a couple of points I reminded you, these are not loans, Tom, these are grants, and the secret sauce. And I think that ran through the committee work, ran through, all the partners at the table was trust. we really had to put a lot of trust in the networks and the relationships that were established. And I think that gave a lot of tailwind to the work.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of requirements to make sure that the investments were going well, but there was also a lot of flexibility, and that was the collaboration that really worked. Lauren, do we have another question?
Yes, we do. This one is for Coco. What was your decision to move a business downtown or even bring a business downtown? And what is it like now, with your business in the Fifth Street arcades? Can you give us any updates on how you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. So, yes, I had a retail store that was in Beechwood Mall, and I had a store that was in Westlake. And so I'm not from the Cleveland area originally. I am now, but I came when I was 18. So, I couldn't understand, we were in Westlake, and I was like, where are all the Black people in Cleveland? Because I didn't know, I know that that's where it was, and all living over on that side. But I realized that I had my shop that was in Westlake, and I had one in Beechwood. And again, the whole atmosphere of being downtown is so insanely awesome. And I decided to come downtown because I didn't want to be on the west side, and I didn't want to be on the east side. I thought if I could just find a small little town, Cleveland, where I could just sell my powder, I would be happy. And I just remember when Dick showed me around, and he's like, we're filled. And I was like, oh, you don't have anything? He's like, well, we've got this area. It's not a store. It's like this mezzanine. But you probably won't like it. And so he showed it to me. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I love it. And I think Dick probably, I'm like, I love it. And because all I need was that small area. So as a result of that small area that I first started, which was about 400 square feet, is now expanded. I call it an entire city block, because down below, Coco's down under, it goes from Euclid to Prospect nearly, and it's kind of like an entire city block. And because of the downtime with the everything that was happening last year in 2020, I really spent a lot of time the renovations and getting it all together. So now when people come downtown and they come to Coco's, they get several things. They get a historical tour. I met and spent a weekend with a historian from Cleveland. So when you come into Coco's, a lot of people call it Alice in Wonderland, a labyrinth of amazement, because when you come in, you get a historical tour, what it used to be and what it is now. So then we also have an interactive area where you can sit and interactively work with Coco's chalky paints, no charge at all. If you decide to keep your tile or whatever, it's $10. But if you don't, it's okay, because we always upcycle and redonate. But we wanted to make it a historical tourist site, and we wanted to make it an interactive space. So, to tell you that I have expanded and I'm thriving is utterly amazing for me to feel inside and to say it, because my friends were saying that's so cute. She's got a cute little heart. She's downtown, a little slow. That's so cute. Well, they're not saying that anymore. It's actually can I follow you? How did you do this? And so now with me being in this big contract, Hobby Lobby and Target in the wings, and Michael's in the wing, it was the mindset. I was not expecting it, but I was ready for it. But it's just seriously the mindset of how grateful I am to be in the city of Cleveland, how grateful I am to have an amazing landlord, and how grateful I am to have met people like you, Tom, who just connect, put everything together, which this is years to do. So I'm thriving, I'm expanding, and I'm just so grateful.
I can concur. The tour you gave me, I think a couple years ago, was very thorough, and it was very fun. So.
Oh gosh, thank you, girl. It's changed. We've added on.
Okay. I'll be sure to go for another one.
Okay.
Do we have time for one more question, or should we wrap it up, Lauren?
Well, let's do closing thoughts. So
Okay.
from the group, your closing thoughts on, our conversation here and anything you'd like to add or, the future of downtown Cleveland.
Yeah, why don't we, Dick, why don't we start with you?
Well, I guess my closing thought is gratitude in so many different ways that, God's blessed me to have the opportunity to be here at the arcades. I got involved in 2012 when it was half empty and really had very low energy. We've been blessed to have so many great people like Coco come in and really add vitality. I mean, you just listen to Coco and listen to the energy. It's fantastic. And we have everybody's an entrepreneur here, and it just makes it a wonderful place to work. So I'm grateful for all the tenants. I'm grateful for DCA and Cleveland Foundation and all the great organizations who are supporting us and supporting Cleveland. I'm grateful that we live in such a great city. This is a wonderful community with problems like everybody. Every individual has their own problems and their own weaknesses, and every city does too. But ours are solvable. When you look at our problems compared to a New York City, an LA, I don't know how you fix those cities, but Cleveland, the education system is something that we can fix. The safety is something we can fix. These are solvable problems, and we've got great organizations that are helping us do that. So I'm very grateful for all of that. Thanks.
Thank you, Dick. Nelson, what are your final thoughts?
Three really quick things. One, solidarity. I'm just reminded how important it is for us to actually work together and lock arms. One of my mentors, they always says, when you focus on place, you do everything differently. And this is a perfect example. And a small request, if you guys could do anything to make sure Vincennes is open on weekends, I would be forever grateful. That's all I have.
Coco, you have any final thoughts?
I just want to tell you that I invited to go to Hong Kong and do exactly what I did downstairs. And I told them, I can't. I need to focus on my space. And then a few months later, I've been invited to go to San Francisco and work with an organization to do exactly what I did here downtown Cleveland. They come here and they turn around. They're like, wait, am I in Cleveland? Because that's what I was trying to create. I can't sit here and explain my shop to you. I say that it's a feeling, and that whole feeling is because of the city of Cleveland and its tenants. And I will not go to San Francisco, and I won't go to Hong Kong. But what I will do is perfect this whole feeling here in Cleveland.
Well, I for one will say, Coco, that you may not be from Cleveland, but now you're a Clevelander, and we're not really going to let you go anywhere else. So the next time some other city calls, just refer them to me so I can tell them to go take a hike, because you're a Clevelander now and you're not going anywhere. And that really goes for everybody on the call. I really appreciate you sharing your insights and your perspective and everything you do for the city of Cleveland and downtown to invest in it and grow it and make it an authentic, amazing place that it is that we all are very proud about. Appreciate Dick and all he's done for the Fifth Street Arcades and retail in downtown, and Nelson for everything you do in the community and investing and holding not just investing in the neighborhoods, but holding conversations, really important conversations about place and community. And it's always really impressive to be with all three of you. And I appreciate the hour we just spent together. I will finish up by inviting everyone to join us with the next webinar next Thursday, or not next Thursday, but Thursday, June 10th at 3:00, where Natoya Walker-Minor, the Deputy General Manager for Administration and External Affairs for the Greater Cleveland RTA, where she's going to talk about the next gen system redesign and the big things that are coming with public transit. And I will pass it back to Lauren to finish us up.
We're all done. Thank you, everyone. This concludes our presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.